I can't tell you how many fucking draws I've missed. This is insane. Like, I don't even fucking believe I really do not believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe it. I just can't believe. Like, it is like luck. I mean, it literally has me speechless. Like, how many big spots where I have like a fucking flush draw with all this extra shit or whatever, and end up literally with my fucking sausage in my hand, my fucking beefy sausage just sitting in my hand, and that's all I got is just a fucking dick in my hands by the river. And fucker's got some, queen nine off, just holds like it's fucking. He runs so fucking good in this match. He had no fucking clue. No fucking clue how good. No fucking clue. Thinks it's normal. This is insane. I've played poker a long fucking time to be able to tell the difference between like fucking sun running these spots or just fucking, woo, holy shit, man.
Yes. And with that, we welcome you in. This is No Gamble, No Future. He is Brent Hanks. I'm Jeff Platt. We will be joined by Daniel Negreanu in just 1 minute. Coming up on today's show, we also have cousin Kristen. I'm looking forward to seeing her. And
sure you are.
We'll just, I just want to get her pick what she has to say. We'll go over our cards. It's kind of a rough weekend for me. Don't know about
every
you.
weekend is rough for you.
Every weekend is rough. Some NBA futures talk. We will, of course, hear from our dear friend Uncle Ron. Hope he's doing okay in the cold.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it.
He only wears his underwear. Huh? He can't survive the freezing Kansas City cold.
So you're joining us on YouTube, you're on Poker Ghost channel, or you're on our new channel, No Gamble, No Future, and here's what we would love for you to do. You click the thumbs up button, you click like, and then you click subscribe. It's easy, right?
Little thumb job, little subscription. That's good for everybody. We want to do this every single week. Bring in big guests just like Daniel Negreanu, who's going to be with us in 1 second.
I think 1 second, that would be right now. Yeah, let us bring him in. The 6-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner. Daniel, welcome in to No Gamble, No Future.
Well, thanks for having me, gentlemen. I love the tagline, No Gamble, No Future. The motto of my generation, where, gamblers just put the chips in the middle and they helped that it happened, and they didn't have any ROI or spreadsheets. They just had coyones and Coke cans.
Coke cans, indeed.
Coke can Dan.
Oh, we love it, and that is No Gamble, No Future. So the two of us have interviewed you, 46 times about high stakes feud. So most of today we want to look forward instead of look backwards. But I think one important question, now that you've had a little bit of time to reflect, I know you've been playing a lot of chess, so maybe not that much time to reflect. How do you look back on the overall high stakes feud experience?
Well, I mean, it was the learning process was fun, nailing its fundamentals, because that's what I love learning stuff. As you mentioned, now I'm on the chess. I'm like addicted to watching PogChamps and seeing all the moves, and it's like I'm watching chess at my level. So it's actually it's kind of like poker. I see the analogy where there's like dumb mistakes that are made that makes it more interesting, right? At the highest level, poker is fun to watch, sure, but like sometimes seeing, donkeys play is good. As far as the match goes, obviously disappointed with the result. Like I just felt like, as you heard in the intro, and I'm not going to bother doing this, but I was going to just like look at the stats in terms of how many times like I completed draws in big spots, because I already know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Listen, I'm not suggesting that. I actually had some of my favorite tweets this week. I saw Brad Owen tweet something like during the Super Bowl saying like, how many points do you got to lose by before you stop complaining to the refs? And I replied 1.2 million.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Because, listen, at that point, I was going to lose the match, but I definitely felt, super unlucky throughout.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm tired of dwelling on the past, Daniel. Let's look ahead and perhaps, I don't know, listen to what Phil Hellmuth had to say about the upcoming high-stakes duel, or I should say what led to the upcoming high-stakes duel. Let's have a listen.
I was disappointed in the way that Daniel played. But I know his coaches are brilliant. And so he has brilliant coaches. And so everything that I have talked about with his coaches, you see, I talked to these guys for a couple of hours. I love the way they thought about No Limit. Then I sent them to my agent. And then they ended up with Daniel. Not with me, because I was like, what are they going to teach me? We're aligned on our philosophies. So I think they're great coaches and they know what they're doing. I think that their heads-up theories about, 3-betting every time you have Jack 3 of clubs and Jack 5 of clubs and a lot of these hands, that seemed like that's a lot of money to get in some weird spots. So I was betting on Daniel's talent, and I think that if Daniel's going to try to play Doug playing pure GTO or next level GTO, then to me Doug has a lot of fire, and he's and so Daniel's trying to fight fire with fire. I thought Daniel should have fought fire with Daniel, and so I told Doug I'd play him next, and and I'm ready. So I've won 29 out of my last 30 heads-up matches. I won the last heads-up tournament I played in. And so I think I've only lost once to Kerry Katz, our boss, at a World Series tournament. And I remember I had aces and he had sixes. But, I mean, to be fair, most of the money went in after it came King 6 deuce. I overplayed the aces.
Huh. He doesn't have anything to learn from coaches. I definitely heard that part. Just no one can coach him.
So, Daniel, what were your thoughts when you heard that from Phil last week?
Okay, like if you look at that in its entirety, it is a large bowl of word salad nonsense. Okay? It's just such insanity. Because here's the thing, right? He starts off by saying, I didn't like the way Daniel played. Yet, he watched exactly 0 of the match. Okay? So typically when you watch a game, like if you don't say, oh, who played last night? Lakers and Timberwolves? Yeah, I didn't like the way the Lakers play. Did you watch any of it? No. How do you know that? You don't know shit. You're just literally talking out of your orifice that's sitting in the, that you're sitting on. Just complete word salad of nonsense. Like, I don't think he has any idea. And, this idea with the coaches thing where he keeps mentioning that, like, they're aligned. They talked for a couple hours. They probably said a couple things that Phil said, oh, that's it. I got it all fucking figured out, right? I think Phil represents a generation. Well, I mean, I don't think he represents it necessarily because there are people from his generation that have a deep respect. Guys like Eric Seidel. They have a deep respect for all the hard work these young guys put in on just analyzing the data. It's reminiscent of like old school football coaches, down by 9 with 3.5 minutes to go, a 4th and 1 on the 40. And they're like, well, let's punt it and hope we get the ball back. Just like old school, forget about data, forget about game theory, all that kind of stuff. Just use the eye test, or like sports bettors who are like going to just do it based on going, oh, I don't know, I feel like they're going to win today because I got a good feeling, and today's method is, using data, which is similar to poker, right? Where you can dissect the game at a very high level. So first of all, he's just talking out of his ass because he didn't watch any of the match. Second of all, this idea that like you're not, raising with Jack 3 suited, this just shows like how little he knows, right? Of actual, theory. And I will say this. Phil Hellmuth has done a really good job his entire career of being, and he doesn't know this because this is so fucking funny when I tell you this. He's the most extreme exploitative player I've ever seen, and it works because people make big mistakes against him. Okay, that I won't be making necessarily. And I remember when I first said we were filming the final table of the World Series of Poker, and we're sitting there on the couches in the back room, and we mentioned game theory optimal, and he's like. And I said, Phil, you're an exploitative player. And he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, I'm game theory. I'm GTO. And he's like, and then he literally said, swear to God, I invented GTO.
Oh, my.
He said,
it's unbelievable.
I invented it. I invented, not the internet. He didn't invent the internet, but he invented game theory optimal play. And he didn't understand what the hell it is, still doesn't understand what the hell it is, but claims that he invented it. No, Phil is good. And I try to say that's not an insult to say that you're an exploitative player because you're very, very good at what you do, right? The issue is when somebody does understand game theory and can poke holes through all the exploits that you're making, then you can't win. You just, not even win some, you just can't win against these players. Like obviously the shit worked against Antonio, but that shit's not going to work against me.
I'm glad you mentioned Antonio. So for you guys in the chat, by the way, shout out Luke Allman, Jonathan Gray. Yeah, we got the audio figured out. Mitch Hecht, everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Good question. What are Daniel and Phil going to play? I'll tell you what they're going to play. High Stakes Duel.
Wow.
Daniel just mentioned it. Phil kicked Antonio Esfandiari's ass 3 consecutive matches in High Stakes Duel 1. Here comes High Stakes Duel 2. Daniel Negreanu versus the defending champion, Phil Hellmuth. He's going to unveil a championship belt. The date is to be determined, but I promise you it is coming very soon. Very soon. Great questions from you guys in the chat. Also, as much as it'll either be $50,000 or $100,000 that they're going to play in round 1.
Okay.
So there you go. There's some details there. Daniel, there was an interview that you did. Oh, what's that?
One other thing, too, about what he said. You know how he said he's ready to play Doug?
Yeah.
He's full of, that is such complete bullshit. Like, he wants, 10-1, wants to play, 10,000 hands, one table, whatever. Because I said to him, listen, because he would never do this. He's so much blow smoke, yappity. At least when I say I'll play, I do it. And I put my money where my mouth. Phil is total chicken shit. He would never play me the same format as Doug.
Yeah, and you mentioned chicken shit. You're on record with the Review Journal here in Las Vegas of saying, I think he's a chicken. To be honest with you, I think he's scared. I think he knows he's going to look bad. Do you fully anticipate whooping his ass in high stakes duel?
I will say this. Here's what Phil does a good job of, right? Protecting himself from environments that he's going to look really, really bad in, right? Mm-hmm. So you protect yourself. In a tournament, you're limited. You play short stack. There's not as many big mistakes you can make, right? As you saw in my match with Doug, when you play 25,000 hands, day in and day out, heads up, there's nowhere to hide, bro. You don't just lose a buy-in and you're done. You got to keep playing and playing and playing, and in the end, the better player is just going to win. But Phil, he doesn't play much against the super high GTO wizards, so that way he can just say he's better than them without actually having to prove it. And then he'll mention, I made the final table once of Super High Roller Bowl. I came fourth. Okay, cool. I made the final table of the $1 million one drop. This is stuff that happened 5-6 years ago. The amount of theory and of evolution of the game that's happened in the last 3 years, I'd say, makes what we saw then not a thing. I think the best example of watching a really smart, good young player just completely dominate was Fedor Holtz against Phil Hellmuth in every single hand they played on Super High Roller.
Yeah.
Not just some of them, but every single hand, Fedor was extracting all the value with a 4-card straight on board with 2 pair, getting check raises in, folding when he was supposed to. He literally never made even remotely close to a mistake against Phil. He was so dialed in. I think I have a pretty good read on Phil's game, but I thought Fedor, if anybody, just he wiped him silly, in a lot of these spots. So yeah, in the limited experiences he's going to have against players like that, he's not going to. I would hope one day, I don't think it's going to happen. I would hope one day that Phil goes, you know what, Daniel? These kids who worked really hard and studied really hard know some things that I don't. But for him to claim he had a 2-hour conversation with a couple coaches, he's like, what are they going to teach me? I know everything about theory. Oh, yeah? How many combos is ace-king? I don't know. Fucking, you either have an ace-king, there's fucking an ace and a king, there's 2. So 2 times 4. I don't know. The fuck, he has no idea how to, break down hands at a very analytical level and understanding game theory. So, and this isn't to say that, his exploitative style isn't good, because a lot of the stuff he does, like I said, really works against most people. It's just not going to work against people who understand game theory and understand the deviations that he makes, okay? Because he makes a lot of massive deviations from GTO. If you look at what a game theory optimal play would be a standard play, he doesn't make that play. He makes obscure plays in a lot of different spots, which again is part of what has worked for him for a long time. It's just now the game has evolved to a point where that shit's just weak sauce compared to what these guys will bring.
Daniel, an offshore site posted odds if you all were to have this challenge, which, as Brent said, is on for Season 2 of High Stakes Duel. They posted the odds at about a flip at Hellmuth, a slight favorite. The money poured in on you. It moved you all the way from plus 110 to minus 300-ish.
Minus 300 now?
Yeah, to minus 300-ish. Now, you said in a 25,000 hand challenge, yes, nowhere to hide. In the sit-and-go format, like you're going to see on High Stakes Duel, is there any way for you to quantify what kind of a favorite you would be? Do you see yourself around that minus 300 range? Is it even greater? Is it smaller? What are your thoughts?
So anytime you play a sit and go, right, it levels the playing field to a certain degree,
Sure.
right? So imagine, extreme example, let's say we play just literally one hand, okay? Well, whoever wins that hand wins, right? You play 10 hands, it's basically going to come down to just pure luck, right? The good news about High Stakes Duel, and I watched all of it and I thought it was really entertaining television. Him and Antonio had a good back and forth. Is that there's a lot of play, right? So Phil's going to have to play for quite a while at 500 big blinds deep, for the first half an hour, and then in 333 big blinds deep. So the thing his biggest weakness is deep stack play. Like he's in no man's land in a lot of these spots, especially, anytime you're playing 100 big blinds or above. And then his play is very exploitative when he gets down below 20 as well. So, I'm trying to think of like where he would be his good sweet spot. I don't know, like 40 or 50 or 60, something in that neighborhood. So I suspect the match will go like this, okay? When we're deep, I'm just going to win, okay? It's going to be very, very difficult for him to get a lead for the late stages, right? So then it's going to be a question of, for him to win this match, he's going to have to win in all-ins, probably 3 or 4 of them without losing one, is my guess, because he's going to have a big chip deficit in the first half of the match when the play is deep and there's a lot of, there's just a lot more post-flop decisions, right? The more intricate post-flop decisions that require, to play at a high level, some knowledge of like what two artificial intelligence bots would do against each other, having that knowledge for deep stack play is kind of essential. And when you don't have it, you're just going to have a lot of holes, right? Now, it's a short sample size, right? I don't know how many hands we're going to play, but obviously I feel like if we played a 25,000 hand match, he's just completely dead. He would never do that. I'm ready, he says. I'm ready to play Doug. How much you want to bet? In a billion years, if Doug said yes, Phil would say, okay, can I get 100 to 1? Or some shit like that.
I think he asked Doug for odds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he asked him
10
for
to 1.
10 to 1
10 to
odds.
1, yeah.
So the actual offer he made him was play 15,000 hands, one table online, which is brutal, and which is fine, whatever. And then he wanted 10 to 1 odds to win the match. And then he said to him, I'm gonna limp 90% of my hands. I'm like, okay, wow. Ooh, don't frighten me, Phil. Don't frighten me. Like, oh my God, you're gonna limp 9 out of 10 hands? What will I do?
He told us he would be even in that matchup. That's why he was so excited.
Yeah,
that he could get
yeah,
10 to
yeah.
1, but he considered himself about a flip against Doug.
I want to make a couple points. One, the mass wide stream audience, it's going to be tuning in to the high stakes duel against yourself. Very similar audience that we had when Phil Hellmuth played Antonio Esfandiari. If Daniel, Phil Hellmuth, who just whooped Esfandiari, if he comes in and he defeats you in high stakes duel, is it fair to assume that the masses will assume that Phil Hellmuth is the greatest player of all time? And I know he's got 15 bracelets. I know he will tell you he's the greatest player, but is it fair for everyone else to also make that assumption?
People don't know, right? That bottom line is this. Like, we built a big name, we have name recognition from all the years on being on ESPN and being around, poker for so long. But I think the mainstream that, maybe isn't as diehard, they don't know who Jason Kuhn is. They don't know who Timofey Kuznetsov is, Jungle Man Dan. They don't know some of these like high stakes crushers that would beat me and beat him, right? So Phil, and this is what he does a good job of. He's a branding expert, right? He basically sells to the masses. I've won 29 of my last 30 heads-up matches. Okay, against who? First of all. And, Antonio Esfandiari. I mean, I love Antonio, right? But Antonio is like one of the best hustlers in the world. He plays in games with like, blind people for the most part. They're like, I don't know. He's not playing. Antonio's not grinding every day with solvers playing against GTO wizards, right? So the masses will see Phil and, they look at the numbers, the bracelets, the this and that stuff, and they think for tournaments, he may be, the GOAT. And you cannot argue with like the success he's had over a long period of time, and he loves it more than anybody else, and he tries really, really hard to win these things. But if you saw some of these young guys put in the same effort or care, they just don't, because like they play high stakes, and like a lot of the World Series tournaments is like what, $1,500 buy-in? That's it's beneath them, if you will. But I think the people within the poker community know I'm not the best player in the world. Okay, I'm not. He's not. They know that. They know the best player in the world is probably some kid who hasn't left his basement in the last 2 years because he's grinding every single day. And this is where I want to get Phil to at some point, is to show some respect for this generation, because I think he disrespects them on a regular basis. Mocking GTO, something he has no understanding of. Mocking these kids and how they play, and they 3-bet with Jack 3 of clubs. And they do that at a frequency, Phil? And they dial it in, and they do it exactly 14% of the time so that their ranges are balanced, and they're playing at a GTO level, which exploits the shit out of what you're doing. Like, he doesn't want to acknowledge that the kids that are grinding, it's like, it reminds me of Rocky 3, the movie, right? In Rocky 3, You know, Rocky's out there taking pictures, doing sponsorships, doing American Express ads, all this kind of stuff. And what's Clubber Lang doing? Sweating, grinding in a dirty gym. And guess what happens when they fight? Boom, Clubber Lang knocks him out because he's the one grinding. So you have to respect that everyone has their time, if you will, right? And I saw this interview with a boxer who was about to fight. And he's already a very successful boxer. He's got an illustrious career. And they said, is it still hard for you to get motivated to fight? And he says, you know what? I will say this. It's a little more difficult to do those 5 a.m. runs wearing silk pajamas, right? So, you know, just being out of touch. Like Phil's wealthy, he's got money, he's set. He doesn't have to spend 8 to 10 hours a day grinding, right? But you got to respect the guys in the trenches now. You know, I went through a couple times, you know, several times, like 3 months or so of like hardcore analysis, diving into all these spots at an intricate level, right? He's not above that. He doesn't have this, like, there's no such thing as freaking this, you know, well, I don't want to use the term, but he just doesn't show, as far as I'm concerned, enough respect to this generation because he wants, like you're saying, the masses to believe there's Phil Hellmuth and then these up-and-comers, right? That they're like, you know, they're trying to get his title or something like that. When they're like, in reality, the people in the poker world know that like all these up-and-comers are like significantly better. Not just like a little better, but like significantly better and would absolutely destroy him in virtually any format.
So speaking of diving in, we'll talk about chess in a minute, but first, is this high stakes duel the next poker event on your schedule? And if so, what will that preparation process be like for you as you approach a sit and go format instead of a cash game format?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I'm prepping chess right now because that's all I'm playing right now. But like, to be honest with you, with Phil Hellmuth, there will not be much prep. There really isn't a lot of need for it, okay? Because I've played with Phil a long, long time. And, you know, I'm trying not to give too much. It wouldn't even matter with him because he's just going to tell you what he's going to do anyway. He literally just tells you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then he pretty much does. So there won't be a ton of prep. I'll probably watch the, you know, the previous matches against Antonio for shits and giggles. But I'm just going to come in and I have an idea already, you know, of how the match is going to play out. Like I can envision it. As I said in the early going, I'm going to build a lead. Okay, and it's going to be a grind. And, you know, by the end, it's just going to come down to whether or not, you know, he can win 3-4 flips in a row or something like that. Because it's going to be very difficult for him to find spots where he can extract value from me in certain ways, just based on the way that, you know, he plays. Like he's going to be limping a lot. Totally fine by me, right? So generally speaking, if he's limping and I'm raising, I'm playing bigger pots in position than he's playing. He's fine with that because here's what he's doing, right? He's got 500 big blinds. He's just waiting. He's waiting. He doesn't want to play with 500 big blinds. He doesn't want to play with 300 big blinds. He wants to hold those chips and hang on to them till we're both at about 50, 60 big blinds or less. And then he feels like he's got a shot. He does not want to play 500 big blinds deep. He might say so. Oh, I like deep. Well, if you like deep so much, Phil, why do you always show up 2-3 hours late for every tournament? Smart for him not to, because deep stacked is where he's the most like naked. You know, you saw the picture for the show with the bulge versus bulge, but it's like the emperor with no clothes when you play real deep.
You were excited to tweet that picture out.
I love that photo. Yeah. Producer John made the Battle of the Bulge.
The Battle of the Bulge.
Exactly what we've got coming.
Check it out on Twitter.
Duel.
Daniel, take us inside PogChamps 3, this chess challenge that you're a part of. And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, that you felt a level of nervousness that maybe you haven't felt in a while when it comes to this competition.
Oh, my God. The parallels to poker in this, it's so interesting. Like, I was petrified. So, you know, in chess, you get a rating, right? And typically, it's not like poker where if you're higher rated, you know, if you're significantly higher rated, you should just win every game, right? So I come in like rated around 1180, which isn't great, but it's okay. But I'm playing against a beginner named Pokimani, you know, who's this, you know, streamer and YouTuber and stuff like that. And she's a beginner. She's like a 600 rating. So this should be a slam dunk easy match, right? And then, of course, I got this tricky open that I was doing for those chess nerds. It's called the England Gambit. And it works against everybody at my level, okay? Because they don't see it coming, and boom, 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 wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I win quick and easy. So now I'm playing this 600 ranking, and she doesn't fall for it, and she actually crushes me in the early going. And then I realized later, I'm like, oh my God. Her coaches were looking at my games and seeing what I like to do, and figured out the perfect counter to destroy me. And I was able to so she had a big lead on me, and I was nervous as hell. And then I finally was able to maneuver my way back to win the first leg of the match. But then by the second, I'm like totally wigged out. I'm like freaked out by this because I'm like, am I going to lose? And I choked so bad. I played both games, just played not to lose. Like, all right, don't make a big blunder. Don't make a big mistake. But I've been loving watching this. I just finished watching Logic the Rapper and a guy named Tubbo. And this guy Tubbo, for the chess, he had a queen and a rook. And Logic had just his king. So it's just like, and they're all open pieces. And Tubbo, he screwed up, and he put himself in the only position possible that would stalemate. So he ended up losing the match. But it's been so fun because when you see blunders, much like high stakes poker, a lot of the shows that we have, where you got some not all the GTO wizards. Like GTO poker at the highest level, it's fun, it's interesting, but it's way more interesting when there's drama like, oh my God, is he really going to do that? I think it's really super fun. It's fun to play. It's a new challenge for me to take on. I've been grinding chess hard, and I think I got a shot. I was considered the 2 seed in my group, behind a guy named XQC, who's a huge, massive streamer. He gets 80 million followers or some shit like that. And so he played against Rubius. We're all in group play, and I play Rubius tomorrow. And I watched his games a little bit to try to get a feel. But I think what I'm going to try to do in that is not be as tricky in the early going and just kind of play safe, because I think maybe my edge might be in the later stages. But it's been a blast. Like I said, I love learning. I went from the heads-up poker to chess, and I don't know what's next after that, but chess is fun right now.
Chess seems to be just blowing up, Daniel. I mean, you tweeted something about that the other day. Obviously, the Queen's Gambit had to have a lot to do with all of the attention that the game is garnering right now. What else? Why is chess booming right now? And do you think that we could have a parallel with poker, perhaps, if some sort of movie were to come out about the game that we love?
I think number one, you mentioned Queen's Gambit. That's their rounders, if you will. And that was very successful. I think the other thing, too, that helped chess was COVID, unfortunately, because a lot more people at home, a lot more people either, they're out there, they're done with their Netflix. So now, they start playing the game, they start taking up the game. So that's been really interesting. I do think there's been a lot of shows that have been pitched to me. I was involved in a couple with Robert Eiler and Mars Callahan. We shot, actually, those episodes are available, the first 2 anyway. I was actually acting in this thing. I was actually in it. And I was.
Wait, Rob Eiler from Sopranos?
Yeah, I was mentoring him to a certain degree, in the show. And there's a couple episodes. I don't even know how to find them. Fight Channel or whatever. I'll send you the link later.
Cool.
But yeah, I think I've seen so many scripts. I've seen so many ideas for sort of like a poker show, and I think there's plenty of really good ideas, and I think it would help a lot. I also think for poker, I would love to see, because now that I'm watching this PogChamps, and I watch it every day. I watch these streams every day. There's one right now that I'm late on that I'll watch after this. But what they do is they take 16 players, not superstars, but like famous people in their genre, like Rainn Wilson from The Office, Logic, myself from poker, and then mostly, a lot of young streamers. And they put them into 4 groups of 4. And then there's the first round is you play each person once, right? And then the top 2 from each group move on to the next round, and then there's a consolation round, and they play off in a format like that. I would love to see something like this. And I think with Heads Up Poker really taking off, I think there's a market for creating this, if you guys want to do it with me, where we basically get 16 players. They all get coaches and stuff like that, and we're going to leave out the super high-end, geniuses. Maybe we get some players that are within similar skill levels, right? And I don't know if we can find 16 of them, but I think we might, and that could be fun. Or we could just do it with 16 killers, kind of like I think Phil Galfond did something similar to that. But I could see something like this really being fun for viewers. I think a lot of people tuned in when I was playing against Doug, of course, for the matches. So I think we should do more stuff like that.
I like that idea. You get the Draymond Greens of the world, fire off a heads-up tournament of sorts. I think that'd be pretty good. Daniel, about 12 to 15 games into the NHL season, more for some teams, less for others, maybe due to COVID. Who has stood out to you the most? We're going to put up an NHL futures graphic. Looks like the Avs, the Golden Knights, the Lightning, all around that 8-1 range. Boston at 9-1, Toronto at 10-1, Montreal at 12-1. So again, who is maybe out of that group? Who has maybe been the most surprising to you with the way they've started the season?
Let me see, because I haven't really been all that shocked. I would say, the one team, not in that group necessarily, but the one team that's, off to an amazing start, and you wouldn't expect it after the changes they made, is the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers don't typically get much attendance in the crowd, and I think that sort of leveled the playing field now with no fans. But they've actually, because Florida, they allow. So I think they have more fans now post-COVID than they did before. People are bored. But Florida's one that's really obviously started off really, really hot. Let's see, who else has surprised me from that group? Well, Vegas has been good, right? Very good, The only question there is, they played a bunch of games against Arizona and Anaheim, LA, like San Jose, like some really bad teams in that division. They did really do well against Colorado yesterday. Nate McKinnon just back for a game, so not sure there. But the team that also, I think, I wouldn't say it surprised me. They lost last night to the Ottawa Senators after being up 5-1, which is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, so the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the funnest division by far. They are in the Canadian division, and it's a very weak division. You have Ottawa, which is very, very bad. So them losing to Ottawa was really just, not good. But really, outside of like Montreal, who's been decent, you got Winnipeg, who's Edmonton, who's got a lot of problems. Like Toronto should be, especially without having to face Boston or Tampa Bay this year, in the playoffs, they should be a Final Four team, right? So then it's a question of whether they can put it together, because they're going to come out of that division. If they get Wayne Simmons back, who's been the big, tough guy who's helped them a lot, for the playoffs, that could go a long way. Boston surprises me every year, just the fact that they continue to stay relevant despite seemingly losing pieces each and every year. They lost Torrey Krug on the defensive end. They didn't really get any replacements for him. They have that top line. They have solid goaltending. The team that I mentioned before, I think on your show or whatever, was that sort of sticks out as I wouldn't say surprise team, but a good long shot. I don't really think you had them at like 20-1, which is the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah. They are in by far the toughest division. I mean, you're looking at Boston, Philly, Islanders, Washington, Pittsburgh, which is all, should be playoff teams. Then you got the Rangers, which are improving. New Jersey's gotten better. And Buffalo, which is the doormat, but they're not. They're not that bad. So that's a really tough division for them to get out of. If Philly does get out of that somehow, they're going to need really good goaltending from Carter Hart, who's been shaky so far this year, but if he can pull it together, I could see Philadelphia coming out there. Vegas they're going to be up against St. Louis or Colorado, and that's going to be their path. And then actually, I think that the Central Division is weird. Tampa's the class of the division, of course, and then there's a whole bunch of like decent teams. So I could see Tampa, Vegas. I mean, this is like the chalk, right? Tampa, Vegas, Philly maybe, and Toronto in the Final Four, something like that.
And the Sabres.
Do you want to get your Sabres question out of the way? Maybe you saw a little value in their futures ticket.
Not biased, 100-1 to win the cup. Let's go Buffalo. It's our year, baby.
If Buffalo's in a different division, I would say they'd have like a better chance, because they have some pieces. Jack Eichel and Rasmus Dahlin are like superstars, right? One on the back end, one at center. I love watching Jack Eichel play. He's a master, especially in overtime. But they're just up against it, bro. Like, I mean, they're already, I think, 5 points out of a playoff spot. And the problem this year is if you're 5 points out of a playoff spot, it doesn't sound like that much. The problem is your division gets points every single night, because you're not playing interdivision games where the three teams ahead of you might all lose. Like, they're playing each other all the time. So the spread is already quite big, and I don't see them with much of a shot to make the playoffs this year, unfortunately.
But not much of a chance to make the playoffs, but you're going to fire him at 100-1 to win the cup.
Yeah.
All right, he's going to fire him to win the cup. Daniel, before we let you go, want to throw some trivia questions your way, and we want you all in the chat to participate as well. Brent, you will be participating as well. Your showing last week in the trivia was okay. It's probably better than expected. I think you got 1 or 2 questions right. So if you are in the chat,
I won the trivia.
You won against who?
There's
no real winner.
I beat the chat.
Okay, but anyway, if you're in the chat, let us know A, B, C, or D. And Daniel, here is our first question. You have been on High Stakes Poker more than any other player in history. How many times have you appeared? So how many episodes have you been on? Is it A, 48, B, 64, C, 73, D, 92. 48, 64, 73, or 92. Daniel, we'll go to you first for your thoughts while people in the chat fill in their answers.
That seems really high. What was the lowest one? 48, you said?
48. 48 was the lowest.
I'm going to say 48.
Brent, what are you thinking?
Oh, man. I mean, he doesn't think he played that many times? God damn. I'd love to
Well,
know
it's
how
probably
much he's
weird
won
for
or lost,
you.
by the way.
It's probably weird for you, right? Because you go in for a couple days and they shoot the whole season, so you can't think about how many times you.
I would go B 64.
Okay. Brent is going 64.
Yeah.
Daniel is going with 48. Let's take a look at the chat. Jason R. going with C, 73. David going with C, 73. Chris and Jess and Brian have B. Ward, David, and Yarko have C. The correct answer is
73.
It is C. It is 73.
The more I thought about it, the more I realized the 3 was like a giveaway. Because you had 48, 64, all these even numbers, and 73 stuck out like a sore throat.
Oh!
Getting into the mindset of producer John.
Wow, producer John, yeah. He caught you, buddy. Got your ass.
The old trivia trick. All
Caught
right.
speeding.
Let's move on to question number 2. In Poker After Dark's very first season, you won the sit and go in week 2. In that sit and go, who got eliminated first? Was it Mike Matusow, Howard Lederer, Gabe Kaplan, or Jerry Buss? Who was eliminated first from that week 2 sit and go?
We got Matusow, Gabe Kaplan, or Howard Lederer, or Jerry Buss.
Correct.
I'm thinking it was either Matusow or Howard. I'm thinking. I don't remember, but I'm going to go with Mike Matusow.
Okay, going to go with the mouth running bad.
I'm going to go with him there because
Okay.
I think that everyone else is going to play extremely tight. Jerry Buss, doesn't he want to sit and play for a little while? Gabe Kaplan, there's no shot he's putting chips in the middle without the nuts.
Well, I'm sure Jerry Buss was really bothered by that $20,000 entry fee.
That's a good point. He was probably the huge fish, huh?
Really affected the bottom line.
Yeah.
Jerry
What
Buss,
is it?
the late, great Jerry Buss, just an absolute legend. Let's see in the chat. Ward and David have D. Matthew has A. Yarko has D. Brian has A. Let us see that correct answer, and that answer is... It is Jerry Buss.
Oh,
Daniel,
was
any
Buss.
recollection of that?
I do not remember. I mean, listen, I played so many
Yeah.
times. Like, that one, oh, it's just a blur. No, don't remember. I don't even remember who I beat heads up.
You beat David Gray heads
Wow.
up. How about that?
Oh, that's like my dream matchup. My God. Give me no vote to China. David Gray, pick the game. I don't care what it is. I'll raise and he'll fold and I get to win. That's awesome.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. All right, next question. We're taking you in a little bit of a different direction. That question is, what is the average rent for an apartment in Las Vegas, Nevada? Is it $1,155, $1,287, $1,411, or $1,684? The average rent for an apartment.
So an apartment, not a house, an apartment.
Not a house, an apartment
Okay.
in Las Vegas, Nevada. Daniel, what you thinking?
The first one was 11 what?
$1,155,
And then the second was 12.
$1,287, $1,411, and $1,684.
I'm going to go with the 1287.
$1,287.
I'll go
Brent, what you
cheaper. I mean,
thinking?
an apartment. Are people really average? I'm going to go $1,155.
Okay, $1,155.
Yeah.
Let's see what people in the chat think. A lot of B's out there for that $1,287 answer. Some C's from Martin and Lynn. Let's see the correct answer. That answer is. It is A. It is $1,155.
Yeah.
Apartments.
I switched my mind. Damn it. Fuck, I'm zigging and zagging.
It's got to be cheap, right? I mean, there's a lot of, low-end apartments out there, right? I mean, come on.
I don't know. It's $1,155. All right, Daniel, your fourth and final question. I think you'll know this one, but let's see. Over your 12 years as a PokerStars brand ambassador, you made how much money? Was it $3.4 million? Was it $8.3 million? Was it $12.8 million? Or was it over $24 million?
This is a real question?
We're just reading the questions.
How do you even know the answer? Is this
well,
public?
no, we definitely have the inside sources for this. Definitely aren't waiting on Daniel's answer to reveal the correct one.
Wait, so you're saying how much they paid me?
Yeah.
What was the highest number you had?
The highest was over $24 million.
Over 12 years?
It's a yearly of two. It's just,
This is
you
awfully
don't have to
invasive.
answer, but the look on your face says
the highest number you had was 24?
Was over 24 million. So 24.
So over counts everything.
Yes.
Okay. And that somebody thought it was less?
Well, there are a couple other options if the people want to go with less. 3.4.
Should I be answering
your
this or no?
thoughts after that? I'm thinking D.
Listen, over 12 years as the number one poker player for the largest brand at the time, PokerStars, during the heyday. Yeah, I'm going to take D over 24 million, not even close.
Yeah, most people in the chat have D. Let's see. The correct answer is, yeah, we'll go with D over 24 million. I don't know how much we researched
He didn't even need to answer that question. I mean,
right. We'll get into the specifics of your GG deal the next time.
Yeah, that'll go over well.
Yeah.
Over. Just whatever you guys think it is, just go over.
We'll go over. Oh, that is awesome. He is we're curious on the term ambassador. He is a member of Team GG. That is Daniel Negreanu. Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Always fun, gentlemen.
Always fun.
Love
indeed. There he goes, Daniel Negreanu. I feel like this was a cool place to catch up with him at, because we talk to him, once every couple days?
Yeah. And it was a different little twist. By the way, I love trivia. We need to do more of the trivia segment. I'm a big fan. I think the chat does. By the way, shout out again, Jeff, please. Everyone in the chat.
Yes.
What are you on right now?
I'm on the Poker Go YouTube channel, but I'm trying to click back and forth with the No Gamble, No Future YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I think the chat is going to like who we hear from next.
Oh.
Next up, cousin Kristen is back. We're talking college hoops. Let's see what she has to say, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Hey guys! With March Madness right around the corner, my KO pick of the week is for the NCAA Championship. Hands down, I've got to go with Gonzaga on this one at 3-1 odds, and let me tell you why. Mark Few. He's been the head coach there since 1999. That is the same year that Gonzaga made their Cinderella run to the Elite Eight, and they have made it to the big dance every year since. That's no coincidence. Coach Few consistently brings together amazing basketball talent, and they are so overdue. This is their year. I like the 3-1 odds for Gonzaga, but if that's not quite spicy enough for you, it might be worth taking a look at Villanova's 11-1 odds. Until next time, no gamble, no future.
Yep. I like her picks. Yep.
Her
and
what?
Gonzaga. I like her picks.
That's my cousin. What are you saying?
I said I liked her picks. She has Gonzaga at 3-1 and Villanova at 11-1. I like that.
Jesus, Jeff.
What's
awfully red again in here.
Well, it's again with
warm?
the lights. Well, yeah, all the lights.
Yeah.
It's a whole production here
Likes
at the
her
PokerGo studio.
picks, he says. I thought you said something else.
I don't know why you would think that.
Okay.
Let us know in the chat if you like Kristen's picks. P-I-C-K.
Gonzaga, by the way, she's not wrong, obviously. Did her research. Right. Unbelievable program.
And Villanova, will they ever fall off the map?
No, neither will Gonzaga. I mean, for at least as long as Mark Few, the head coach, is there. He's not leaving. He never took an NBA deal. Right. Certainly, I don't think is intending to anytime soon. I love that pick.
Same can be said for Jay Wright at Villanova. So there's a look at your NCAA futures. March Madness is coming up. You're getting very excited about that.
That makes me excited.
Let's dive into the NBA futures for a little bit. And when we take a look at the futures, we see the Lakers at 2-1, Brent, the Clippers at 5-1, the Nets at 5-1. I want to give you two value plays. I want you to just forget about the two LA teams for now, okay? First though, let's go to the East and the Philadelphia 76ers. They are the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. Now, there's a gap in the East. I think it's 76ers,
all right.
It's Bucks, it's Nets, and then there's a drop-off. So, if the standings hold, the 76ers will not have to go through the Bucks and the Nets. They'll just have to face one of those teams in the conference final. So, Brent, you could have the Philadelphia 76ers at 14-1 with a pretty easy path to the conference finals. And again, they won't have to take on both the Nets and the Bucks. They'll just have to get through one of those squads. You kind of like my train of thought there?
I like it. I mean, listen, I'm all aboard the Bucks train. You know that. My guy, Jay Adams, playing for the Bucks.
Most people say my guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
No, it's my guy, Jalen Adams.
But it really is your guy, the Bonnies.
Yes, for the Bonnies. So I'm on the Bucks. I'm a diehard now.
Okay, so let's apply the same principle in the Western Conference that we did in the East. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, and then a fall off. Now, if the standings hold, the Utah Jazz has the number 1 seed. They would not have to play the Lakers and the Clippers They would just have to play one of them in the conference finals. So maybe an easy path to that conference finals, and you can get them now at 8-1. Value, value, value,
The Jazz.
value. By the way, if you've been betting the Jazz every night, which I don't think you have,
Nope.
the Jazz are 18-1-1 against the spread over the last 20 games. Think about that. 18-1-1.
That's unheard of. Is that the
against
greatest?
spread. I do
through
believe
20
so.
games?
Yeah,
I
that is-
believe that can't be close, right?
No,
That's a
no,
record.
that's the greatest stretch by a mile. So
Holy
I think we
cow.
should have been betting the Jazz.
Yeah, I thought you're the NBA guy. Why haven't you been telling me these picks? Oh, wait a minute. Let's get to your results in just a moment. We'll figure out what you haven't been betting.
we'll
the
see.
Jazz.
We'll see a
Not
couple
betting
of
the
them
Jazz.
based on our UFC card because I want to go
You
over.
can't blame the UFC for everything.
I'm not blaming the UFC. This is our first look at where I was wrong.
Are these your
over
results
the
here?
weekend. These are the results of UFC 258, the pay-per-view, an easy win for Kelvin Gastelum. Brent, my girl Macy Barber. I predicted
You had
an
us
easy
all
win.
in on Macy
Everybody was
Barber.
all in. The whole staff, the whole crew here at the Poker Go studio, they were all in based off my advice. And she did win the third round. Unfortunately, she
But
did not.
it doesn't
win the
matter.
First and the second round. Yeah, Alexa Grasso got her pretty good. And then Kamaru Usman, Brent, one of your picks, just incredible. Maybe the best pound for pound
The
fighter
Nigerian
in
nightmare.
the world. Yeah, was going off at -265. Gilbert Burns, an incredible fighter, and put up quite the battle. But Usman, and maybe we'll see Usman Masvidal next. So before, Brent, we reveal our cards for the upcoming week, before we look back at our cards for this last week, we got to check in with our guy, right?
Uncle Ron, baby. Bring him in.
Yep, come on. Oh, poor Ron. Just forgot to turn the microphone
Poor
on.
audio. Can we try it again, Producer John? All right, let's bring in Ronnie. Hey,
Okay.
here we go. Ron time.
Uncle Ron. Yeah.
Here we are. Let's go.
Ron.
Uncle
Ron. It's time for my hot pick of the week.
That looks very hot.
We're not here to talk about the Super Bowl. What's done is done. What's lost is lost. We're going to have to find new ways to bust our bookie, and I think I've found it. I don't know if you guys saw, but it's the Chinese New Year just hit, and it's the year of the praying mantis.
Is it? What is your thought?
So, for my hot pick of the week, we're going with, to win March Madness National Championship, we're going with 70-1 Arkansas Razorbacks. And the reason being is they have a human praying mantis on their team. His name is Connor Vanover. You got to take a look at some of his video. He's 7'3", and he moves up and down the court just like a praying mantis. He shoots 33% from three. Come March Madness, nobody's going to be able to stop him. A big thing that I've noticed on national championship winning teams is they have great endurance. And this team has it. Connor has it. He saves a lot of energy, and you're going to need to win, I think, 6 or 7 games straight to win the national championship.
Is that right?
All mashed together in like 2.5 weeks. And this guy, to dunk the basketball, he doesn't even have to jump. So he's gonna save a ton of energy for that 2 weeks just dunking it without jumping. And 70-1, when your bookie gets you the couple weeks before in the Super Bowl, you're gonna have to take a long shot to rebuild your bankroll. So I'm all in on Arkansas and the human praying mantis. 70-1. Let's bust our bookies.
Well, that sounds good to us.
It's really spectacular.
Yeah.
Arkansas.
Yeah,
That's
the Razorbacks.
That's why he picked that team, right? He couldn't go with Kansas.
He probably thought it was, maybe he thinks it's in
Kansas. By the way, is it the year of the praying mantis?
I think it's the year of the ox.
The ox.
Yeah.
Huh.
His dog, Carl Childers, looked a little cold.
Ronnie's mustache, if you go back, is completely frozen as well.
It looked very cold.
Yeah.
The Uncle Ron hot pick of the week, there it is, Arkansas, at 70-1 to go win that
I don't hate
title. I don't hate it.
I actually kind of want to get on board the old Ronnie Arkansas Razorback Express.
Yeah, Flat Smack in the chat says, get after it, Uncle Ron. Kevin says, go gamble from Chicago. Love Kristen's pick. So some love for cousin Kristen and some love for Uncle Ron. All right, that was Uncle Ron's hot picks. Let's get into some cold picks as we recap my card.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Got Butler, though. The Butler did it.
Another disaster for you.
The Butler did it. Oh, so close, Brent, to getting into the positive with Jordan Spieth.
Oh, God.
A 2-shot lead going into the final day, and just by the time the back nine started, just never a sweat.
Kind of
fitting. Had him at 30-1. Yeah, kind of. But he's getting there. He's getting there. The last 2 weekends have been fantastic. We're on that Jordan Spieth train. Mallory Martin versus Pollyanna Viana. That was not a fantastic showing. Macy Barber, we talked about that. The parlay with Martin and Barber, yeah, probably not a winner if those two picks lost. So that puts me at 1-4 this week. That's great.
So
Can't wait to see our tracker. At? Well, I'll save that until you go over yours. Thank you, though.
Show me my card. Here we go. I went 2-2. 2-2, not bad. VCU, exactly right. On the road at Dayton. Kick some ass in that game. Penn State, easy cover against Michigan State.
Push.
They won. They pushed.
It's a push.
Yeah, they pushed. Dustin Johnson, he withdrew, so I don't get to count that as a loss.
Correct. You get your money back.
I do. I got it all back. Ricky Fowler.
Oh, Ricky. How'd Ricky do?
Did not make the cut. Did not see Sunday's final round. Did not see Saturday. He spent time on the beach. I knew I was going to get that part right.
He probably had a good time that weekend.
I knew I was going to get that part right. And, of course, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman. That's kind of chalky, but, I mean, it just seemed like you couldn't lose. That was a lock.
And
that was a lock.
Yeah, it did look absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So here we go, Brent. Look at the tracker. Oh, boy. I'm down 10.15 units. You are
Where's
up.
my bell? Ring the ding, ding.
Ring the bell.
Ding, ding. I don't
Brent
lose.
Hanks up.
I don't lose.
2.55 units. Let's see what we can get done this week.
Minus 10 units? How do you dig out of this one?
Right. Well, it starts here, folks. It starts this week. It starts tonight. Let's go ahead and show the good people my card, because tonight we are taking Georgia plus the 3 against Mizzou. The unranked team at home versus a top 15 team. Give me the weird-looking line all day. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder plus 7.5. No respect for the Thunder. I mean, they took the Lakers to overtime.
Aren't the Jazz? Why did you choose the Jazz?
Last week. I probably should have just fired on the Jazz. Parlay, UFC, Curtis Blades, and Ketlin Vieira. Blades just too technical for Derek Lewis, I think. Vieira taking on Yana Kunitskaya, number 6 versus number 7. But Vieira is a huge favorite, so parlay him. Grab that payout at minus 150. And then Alexei Oleinik against Chris Daukaus. Oleinik, a legend, a top 10 fighter in the heavyweight division in the UFC. But he's taking on an unranked Chris Daukaus, and Daukaus is a heavy favorite. That shows you something. I'm clicking on Daukaus. And then, of course, folks, you guys know it by now. Every single week on this very show, Jordan Spieth to win. Jordan Spieth to win the Genesis Invitational at 44-1.
No
Get
shot.
us out of the hole.
No shot.
Here he comes.
Yeah, no shot. I don't know. You almost had a miracle at Pebble Beach. With
Almost
Spieth.
got there.
This is going to be a disaster. Pull up my card. Let me show you some winners. Tonight, Maryland minus 10. I have some notes here, Jeff. And I wanted to start with Maryland because, guys, this one is coming from the gut. All right? Okay. I looked at the trends. I looked at the matchup. It doesn't look great for Maryland. Nebraska's riding high. They just got their first win in the Big Ten. They took down Penn State, knocked them off the bubble conversation. Maryland will not choke. You mark my words, they're going to blow out Nebraska. Okay. They need to fight for a Big Ten at Lurchburg. They're going to beat the shit out of Nebraska, okay? Purdue, moving on.
Show.
Ride the train. Purdue minus 5.5. This is Lock City. Michigan State, the worst team in college basketball. Tom Izzo has given up. His players have given up. Purdue at Mackey Arena going to annihilate the Spartans. It won't even be close. Do I have any crazy notes here? Yeah, 8-1 at home, Purdue this year. That doesn't mean they always cover, but they will tonight. Bet it. Go all in. Moving on. Dayton, plus 3.5 on the road at Rhode Island. This is another matchup that I love for Dayton. Why? Because of Jalen Clutcher. Not Jalen Crutcher, Jalen Clutcher. They need this guard to continue to perform. He's averaging almost 19 a game. They're getting 3.5. That's crazy to me. Dayton is again fighting for an at-large, a long shot, but they are fighting. They still are in contention. Moving on, Florida, Arkansas. This is just math, folks. Let me read this for you. This is math. Arkansas is averaging about 83 points a game.
Okay.
Florida is averaging 77 points a game.
Right.
Added up, that's $1.60.
Yeah.
Over under 150. Math. Over.
Right.
Over. It's going to happen. We heard about Arkansas and the praying mantis. We just heard about it from Ronnie. Over in that game.
It's like the Vegas sports books don't know that they average that many points per game.
They clearly don't.
Yeah,
It's just math. I mean, I wrote it here. It's math.
Yep.
Moving on. Xander Schauffele. 14 to Schauffele.
Yeah.
Xander Chauffeur. Why? Because he's going to chauffeur your way to a 14-1 win. Put down 100, you're going to win 1,400. Put down 10, you're going to win 140. I don't care what your unit is. I love Xander. He's played there 3 times at the Riviera.
Okay.
3 times. All 3 top 25 finishes. Ooh. That's actually a legitimate stat. I didn't make that one up. He is primed. He's poised. He's second right now in the FedEx standings. I love this kid. I'm betting Xander.
Xander at 14-1 along with some college hoops plays. Get at us, folks, on Twitter or in the chat right now. If you have plays of your own, Roger in the chat says betting against MMA Russians, that should end well. Yeah, that's probably a really good point. Or hit us up on Twitter. He's at Buffalo Hanks. I'm at Jeff Platt. Our show is at NGNF Show. Nick Chater on Twitter, hit us up. He gave us Julius Randle over 21.5 points last night. Randle had 44 points, a career high. So we love all the picks. Keep them coming right at us on Twitter. Before we go, Brent, it's never a doubt. Did you happen to catch the Daytona 500 over the weekend?
Certainly did. I mean, it lasted all frickin' day, that's for sure. You're talking rain delays. You're talking pileups. Jeff, what else is happening there?
Well, at the very end, you also saw this. A wild finish at the Daytona 500. Let's play that clip. Producer Aiden, if we have that one.
Logano goes back up. Keselowski with him. McDowell in tow. Dillon on the bottom.
The run's on top. Whoa! Teammates.
Around they go in a hard crash. Kyle Busch.
In the world?
Kyle Larson.
Caution is out.
Ooh. Bubba Wallace is in this. Austin Cindric. Hard hit by Kyle Busch. Caution's out.
McDowell is first to the line, but will have to go back to the moment of caution.
That was
which
absurd.
ends the race.
Unreal.
And that allowed Michael McDowell to win the Daytona 500. McDowell was going off at 100-1.
Never a doubt.
Never a doubt.
Never a doubt. I mean, absurd. I looked at numbers for the Daytona 500. Yeah. Every single year from 2021 back to 2013, look at these pileups, folks. Look at all of the cars involved in accidents. I am betting the underdog every year going forward. I did not bet the race this year. 100%, all underdogs, all the time, Daytona 500. It's got to be math as well, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's going to be getting plus money.
But I mean, I want 100-1.
You want the big time
I want
underdogs.
the long odds.
Okay.
Guys like Michael McDowell. Jeff, you and I could have won the Daytona 500. This guy's driving for Uber, and he just won the race. It's true. That's a real. I looked that one up as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real. And if you had him at 100-1, congratulations. Send us a picture of your ticket. All right, so next week, you heard him, NASCAR pick, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. NASCAR pick is coming. Thank you all so much for watching us, for following us on Twitter, and also for clicking like, for clicking subscribe, especially in our new channel,
Like and subscribe.
No Gamble, No
Follow
Future.
us on Twitter.
Yes.
NGNF Show right
Yes.
now. Please get us up there. Take
That's
us
us.
up.
We'll
the
be
charts,
tweeting
please. Yes.
from that account. It'll be, I think you wait until I say goodbye. Oh, you got another. Okay.
You got 2 shots.
And
at
with
this camera.
that, we will see you next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern,
there.
noon Pacific. No Gamble, No Future.
Got
Thanks
him.
for watching.
Got it.